You were focused, you put the time in, but the information, it just, poof, vanished. It's like your brain just skimmed a story it had zero interest in. This isn't a failure of your focus, it's a failure of your technique.
And, this is really the core of the problem. Most of us, when we study, we're studying for recognition. That's the passive part. You see a term and your brain goes, oh yeah, looks familiar. But real learning, that's about recall, the active and sometimes difficult process of pulling information out of a blank slate. If you're not training for recall, you're not really learning.
Now, this is the crucial point, the big aha moment. Your brain is not a filing cabinet for boring, dry data. It just isn't. It's designed to remember engaging, active experiences. That's exactly why you can remember some random story from 5 years ago, but you forget a definition you literally just read. So, to make information stick, you have to make studying an experience. So, how do we do that? Well, this first method completely flips the traditional script on its head. Instead of starting with all your notes open, you're going to start with everything closed. This is called the retrieval first method. Seriously, close your books, put away your laptop, and just try to pull information out of your brain onto a totally blank page. Now, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You might only remember like 5% of what you thought you knew, but that friction, that struggle, that's the signal your brain needs to flag this information as important. And this right here is the core mindset shift. If you're feeling all comfy and confident while you're reviewing your notes, you're probably just recognizing stuff, not retaining it. The real learning, the deep learning, happens in that moment of struggle, that conflict where you force your brain to go find the information. Okay, so our next technique kind of builds on this idea. This one is all about making abstract ideas personal. You don't just memorize a concept, you embody it. You become it. Right? This is how we're taught to learn. Ugh, it's so dry, it's third person, and it is completely disconnected from our actual lives. Our brain sees this and just immediately wants to put it in the trash. Now, just feel the shift to first person here. You're not just studying supply and demand anymore. You are Nike. You're simulating the experience. This little trick anchors the concept to your brain's identity center, the same part that remembers arguments and song lyrics for years. So here's the move. For any concept you're trying to learn, just pause and ask this question. Role play it. Give the concept a voice, a goal, maybe even a fear. Don't just summarize the process. Narrate it from the inside. Your brain won't have to work to memorize it. It'll just remember the character you became for 10 seconds. Okay, so you've made the concepts personal. That's awesome. But how do you organize all these new characters in your head so you can actually find them under pressure? Well, that is where compression comes in. This is a fundamental truth that most study methods just totally ignore. Cramming just floods your brain with disorganized information, and when it can't find a pattern or a starting point, it just shuts down. The goal is not to memorize pages, it's to create memorable patterns. And this is how you do it. You create handles. It's brilliant. You take a really complex concept like the prefrontal cortex and you collapse it into a simple, sticky idea like the brain's CEO. Supply and demand becomes sneaker drop logic. Now, these aren't just silly jokes. They are access points. Under pressure, you won't recall a whole paragraph, but you will recall the handle, and that handle opens the door to everything else. But what happens when you hit that wall? When your brain just feels foggy and it refuses to absorb anything else? Well, the answer isn't more discipline, it's a biological reset. It is so important to understand this. That feeling of being mentally fried, it's not a moral feeling. It's not you being lazy, it's your body's self-preservation system kicking in. It's disconnected, and no amount of trying harder is going to bring it back online. Sensation, on the other hand, well, think of these as your override switches. They are fast, physical, and honestly, a little shocking to the system. An ice cube on your neck, hanging upside down, walking barefoot, these things send a jolt to your nervous system, snapping your brain out of conservation mode and right back into the present moment. When your body wakes up, your brain follows. Now for our final technique. Once your brain is awake and online, we need to feed it information in a way it absolutely loves, using the most trusted and familiar sound it knows. This is a really powerful cognitive bias that we can totally use to our advantage. Your brain evolved to trust its own signals above all others, so when you hear yourself explaining a concept, it's automatically flagged as important, pre-approved information. It's like it gets a VIP pass. The method itself is incredibly simple. Just open your phone's voice recorder and explain the concepts out loud, like you're just talking to a friend. Add some chill background music, whatever you like. Then just play this loop while you're walking or cleaning or just relaxing. You're not even actively trying to memorize. You're letting your subconscious do all the heavy lifting. And the result is kind of amazing. When it's time to recall that information, your brain doesn't have to go digging through files. It just hits play on the audio track it's been hearing for days. The answer flows automatically, just like remembering the lyrics to a song you've heard 1,000 times. So, what do all these techniques really have in common? They represent a huge fundamental shift away from being a passive consumer of information and toward becoming an active, engaged participant in your own learning. And let's be honest, this is the system that most of us were taught, right? We were basically trained to be sponges, to absorb and then squeeze it all out on test day and then forget it. But that's just not how our minds are designed to work. The real breakthrough comes when studying stops feeling like this awful chore and it starts feeling like a game. When the information feels alive, when it feels connected to you, and when it feels like it actually matters. That's when your brain doesn't just store it, it truly integrates it. And that leaves us with a final thought. We've talked about making learning effective, making it efficient. But what if you could use these methods to make it so engaging that your brain actually started to crave it? What would that change for you?